Hi ladies. Okay, listen, we need to chat. There has been a really interesting trend going on TikTok called the monthly study curriculum. Now, this trend is from one of my sweet dear mutuals on TikTok. Her name is Parmesan Princess, and she has brought a revolution to the side of TikTok where women are now self-studying for fun, for pleasure, and in tandem with women that already are studying in their graduate or undergraduate programs, that are independent researchers or lifelong learners. And I want to give you ladies some tips and advice from a concierge librarian that helps ladies study, that helps women researchers who are either researching for fun, that need a self-study curriculum. And if you are interested in that and you need someone to create even a semester-long curriculum for you to study with projects, assignments, quizzes, and all of the active recall and comprehension things that you need to truly take on new knowledge, then I'll have all my information down below in the description box or in my profile, wherever that you're watching this. Now let's get into this video. Effort to erase the BIPOC identity of this country in cultural institutions as well as in public school curriculum. That's obviously going to cause a ripple and an effect with people that are actively either consciously fighting against that or getting out and making their voices heard to prevent that from happening. But in the realm of women such as myself, women that are moms, women that have their own businesses, women that are single and childless, women that work in tech or corporate, or women that work in retail and in restaurants and coffee shops, recently, there has been a sweeping trend on TikTok called the monthly curriculum. Now, Parmesan Princess is the one that originally coined this term, and she is one of my sweet mutuals on TikTok. And essentially, what this trend is women that share what they're learning every single month. She shows the audience what she is learning on certain days. She's like, hey guys, this is what my monthly curriculum is. And I want to give you girlies some tips and advice as a concierge librarian and someone that helps women self-study and self-research, and as well as a former educator, and just give you some practical actionable tips for you to do the same. But before I dive into that, I want to share with you why this is important. Aside from everything that is currently happening in this country, it is your ultimate duty and right as a woman to be well informed. I want to take a quick aside for a second, and I want to talk about the entire, and baby, that's show business, engagement of Taylor and Travis Swift. Now, as a Swiftie, and a Swiftie that has been a Swiftie since Taylor Swift's meteoric rise, since she debuted in Nashville, which is coincidentally where I was attending a Christian university in my freshman year, there is something very disturbing about women in particular that see Taylor Swift's engagement and don't see the intent and the PR of it all. There's a certain subset of women that take everything that they see at face value when it is online, especially from celebrities. There's women that believe whatever that a celebrity or an influencer puts out. And the art of media literacy has truly been lost, and it probably started to become lost ever since No Child Left Behind was enacted. And so when certain women see a engagement like Taylor Swift, and they see how it's rolled out, and they see how certain things are in tandem, such as with Taylor Swift's husband, Taylor Swift's fiance, Travis Kelce, with his new American Eagle True Colors ad rolling out at the same time. There's still women that believe that it's completely natural and that it's true. And that is worrisome. That is very, very worrisome. And it's not just young women, because I think a lot of discourse online about women that are not educated and women that can't see through media literacy and through the PR of it all are generally younger, like Gen Z. But I feel like if anything, Gen Z can clearly see that something is a PR relationship. And depending upon which side of the Swiftie fandom that you fall in, I don't want to say too much about where I fall in because your greatest luxuries are your secrets. But I am in the camp that believes that, as Taylor Swift clearly said, that this is show business. This is show business. And truly, are you not entertained? And that's all that I will say on that. The ones that get it will get it. But moving from the PR of it all for Taylor Swift's recent engagement to Travis Kelce, getting into women in the United States as well as all around the world, it should be your top priority during this current events that are during these events that are happening in the US and around the world, to be as educated as you possibly can. That doesn't necessarily mean going back to school, because for many women, that is something that they can't attain right now. So the best way that you can guard yourself against certain events and certain trends and thought pieces that are currently floating around and that are aimed directly at women is to remain as educated as you possibly can. Now, let's get into a few tips that you can do so that you can remain overly educated. My first tip is that you need to be a well-rounded reader. For example, this is a pretty good example of the genres and the subsets that I read as a concierge librarian, as a trained information scientist and a researcher. It is important for you to be well read. I love a good romance book as anybody else. I love a good fantasy novel. I love all of that. But recently I felt myself craving books with a little bit more substance. Hence the reason why I've started reading classics again. This is my favorite book in middle school and of Green Gables. I've also started reading YA fiction again, and I love YA fiction that is well written and that is set in a post-apocalyptic America. And this is a read that I am reading with my children, and I'm going through and I'm literally playing teacher, and I'm like, well, what did you think about when Katniss said that, and how does this relate to what's currently going on? I feel like it's very important, if you have children, to ensure that they are well read, especially if you have children of color, and you already know why. So this is another subset. I'm also a highly spiritual girly. I'm not going to go too much into my spiritual beliefs as I used to before, but it's all up on my YouTube channel if you're curious. And I like to keep myself informed about my beliefs, even though they are not too mainstream, and even though they are considered a little bit other, I still want to know the history and the lore behind what I believe in. So I have a lot of books regarding that. Another classic book, Charles Dickens' Great Expectations. Love that. I also love personal development and books about money, finance, bettering oneself. I also have this as well. And then a thriller. That's the first step. You need to have a wide subset of interests. Now, my next tip, because I'm running out of time, and let me know if you want a part 2, is you need to read articles again. You need to read articles, and not just academic articles. I do love a good academic peer-reviewed article. I truly do, as a researcher. But I also love to read articles that are in the cultural zeitgeist, like from The Cut, from Vogue, from Substack. And I'm going to leave some of my favorite publications and my favorite reads in my description box or in my profile, however that you're seeing this. But these are my main tips and my main reasoning for why, as a woman in this society, you need to remain overly educated and you need to invest in your learning on a regular basis. Now, let me know if you would like a part 2. I'm probably going to film it, and let me know any questions that you have down below that you want me to address in the second video. And happy studying, ladies.